Mike Hussey at the crease. Pack slips field. He's not in great form. Finn to continue. Oh! Nearly caught.
And I thought to myself, I'm millimetres away from being out for a golden duck in the first Ashes test of the summer.
When are they going to learn? Hussey is murdering everything that comes his way.
Another single. Good batting from Hussey. He's into the 90s. Only 9 runs today for Hussey. That's how hard he's had to work.
For me, when I was in the 90s, quite often I'd think, well, I'm batting well, just keep going, stick to your routine, stick to your process, and hopefully the 100 looks after itself.
Hussey, has he got it into the gap? He has! Off he goes. What a triumph. The knockers are silenced. Will be writ large into the history of Australian cricket. The partnership, as his performance, surely his finest innings for Australia.
Well, thank you very much for giving up your time and getting up so early. You're probably used to it with your kids, aren't you, in Perth?
Yeah, that's right. I actually didn't go to Adelaide in the end. I came home to Perth just for a couple of days because the test finished early. So it is actually 5 in the morning where I am.
Oh
so
my God.
It is.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's all good. It's actually a beautiful morning here in Perth, so it's actually a good time to be up.
Oh my God. It's so funny. I've described you as amongst the 3 nicest men in cricket, alongside Chris Wokes, who you'll know, and Derek Underwood, who you probably don't know. You've just proved it because you got up at 5 o'clock and stuck to your time. So that is an amazing effort. And thank you so much. The people on this call will be really appreciative. Just to introduce you, this is a club we set up last year modestly called the world's best cricket club. We've had every England player on and a lot of other interesting players from around the world. It's a members club which puts £6 a month into a kitty for the Professional Cricketers Trust, which is the charity that supports players in England. And so it's a good cause. And we've got about 200 members. There'll probably be 50 or 60 on today. So they'll be delighted that you've got up so early to take part. And Simon's my sort of other half on these calls. We just to tell you, we do record them and make a little bit of it into a podcast, sort of previewing the next test, if that's all right. Yeah. By you?
No worries. No worries at all.
Swear words.
No, I should be able to watch my tongue. No worries.
So Simon, have you met Huss before, Simon Mann?
I don't think I have, to be honest. No, I'm not sure. And I mean, I can't. I mean, that is really beyond the call of duty to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I got up at 10 to 7 this morning. I thought that was a bit early, especially when I realised that it was actually half an hour too early because you messed up the time difference. But fantastic, Mike, for getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Wonderful.
No worries at all.
Is it actually light in Perth at that time?
Yeah, it's beautiful here. Look, you can't see, can you? It's actually sun's just starting to come up now. You can actually see.
Oh,
it's actually a beautiful morning here in Perth.
Yeah, is that Cottesloe?
No, I'm on towards the Fremantle side, so I'm on the other side of the river. Down towards Fremantle way.
Whereabouts? So Mosman Park or somewhere?
No, Attadale I'm in.
Okay. Oh, lovely.
Yeah, just near the Melville Cricket Club. I don't know if you've heard of the Melville Cricket Club.
Yeah,
not far from there.
I played for Fremantle for a season before your time.
Oh, right.
So late 80s with Graham Porter, Ken McClay, Jeff Marsh, Swampy Marsh, a few other reprobates. Yeah.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
Probably like you, we used to run along the beach and then on a Tuesday night, I think, we used to do a little triathlon at Northport and swim down to a buoy and back, which is exactly where this Englishman was taken by a shark about 2 or 3 years ago.
I know. Yeah, you're exactly right. Right on that beach is exactly where he was taken. So, you wouldn't want to be doing it too deep out there now. A little dip, but just up to the knees or the waist would be fine. But I wouldn't be going too far out at the moment.
Has it freaked people out, that?
Sorry?
Has it freaked everybody out, that incident?
A little bit, but you still get the people that are just every single day, rain, hail or shine, summer or winter, are out there swimming their laps, and they'll never stop them. But I don't know, maybe they've just come in a little bit closer to the shore.
Wow, well, it's a lovely part of the world anyway. Gorgeous, but you are lucky actually to live there in most ways, apart from the redback spider and the sharks and snakes and a few other things. It's very, very good. Anyway, let's talk about the Ashes, Simon, shall we?
Yeah, let's. Well, shall we? I don't know. Perhaps we should talk about something completely different. I mean, Jacob, you probably need to mute yourself because I think we're getting some feedback from your channel. There we go. Thanks very much, Jacob. Yeah, we should. We should talk about it, shall we? I mean, England getting another drubbing. How did you? I mean, we've sort of talked about it, Huss, from an English perspective. What about it from an Australian perspective? I know you said we're recording this, but you can be as brutal as you can be as brutal as you want if you go for it.
No, well, to be honest, I'm quite a pragmatic sort of person, really, and you can. I didn't think the England performance was that bad. It's always funny and interesting to listen to the English postmortems. They like to go pretty hard and really pick the bones out of it. But I think looking back, yes, both teams were going to bat first. And so I think Pat Cummins perhaps got a little bit lucky with the toss by not having to bat first, because there was plenty in that pitch. I must admit, especially on that first day, it did a lot. I think the English attack would have been suited to those conditions. It was overhead. There was overhead conditions as well, which would have really made it difficult for anyone batting. And in fact, as the toss happened, I was standing next to, on the ground, to Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne, and honestly, they were both doing cartwheels. That they were going to be in the field and not have to bat first on that pitch. So I think that was quite significant in the end. I think you can. I was very surprised that either Jimmy Anderson or Stuart Broad didn't play in that first test. Again, those conditions would have suited both of them. So much experience. You think, they've got to be in England's best team, you'd think. So, you want to start the series off with your best team on the park. Now, I believe Jimmy Anderson came out saying that he felt really underdone and that there was a chance that he could get injured. But, so maybe you don't want to sort of risk him, particularly with over a 5-match sort of series. But I must admit, I was surprised that at least one of those guys didn't play. And now that might not have been the difference between winning or losing the test match. No question about that. I think, Australia definitely bowled well, and they know the conditions at Brisbane really well. So the key was on that first day when there was so much moisture in the pitch to get the length right. We've seen it so many times before where teams have had to bat first in difficult conditions, but the opposition haven't bowled the right length, and you bowl too short, they see that extra pace and carry and flying through to the keeper, and you just sort of play and miss really for a long period of time. But the Aussies really tried to get the ball up there as full as they possibly could, and that's where they got the rewards. I think the perfect dismissal was probably the one of Joe Root. That sort of sums up bowling at the Gabba on the first day, is pitching the ball up, bring the batsman forward, look for those sort of outside edges, and that sort of that was the blueprint really. And the Aussies, a lot of their fast bowlers, their natural lengths are a little bit shorter, but they willed themselves to get it fuller, and I think they got the rewards for that. When Australia started to bat, England still had their chances, in that first innings. They created a lot of chances, but for whatever reason couldn't hang on to them, or things just didn't quite go their way. And that's obviously disappointing for them. But I think they can take positives out of that. They bowled pretty well. They stuck at it pretty well. I think for me personally, I know Travis Head played a magnificent innings, and it was unbelievable to watch. But for me, the standout innings was Marnus Labuschagne. The way he batted in that first innings, in those difficult conditions when that ball was still quite new, he just let a lot of balls go. He was patient. He was disciplined. He took a lot of that shine off the new ball, and he made those English bowlers, I guess, bowl one spell, second spell, third spell, and really help wear them down, which did a great thing for the rest of the batting order. It allowed Travis Head to be able to come in and against a tiring attack and an older ball, and to be able to play with a bit more sort of freedom there. And so I think that innings from Labuschagne, you can talk about Warner as well, but let's be honest, he did have a fair share of luck along the way, and probably should have been dismissed a couple of times if it not had been for some good fortune on his part. Catches going down, bowled off a no ball. Even the run out chance, it was just unbelievable to watch as well. So I think England shouldn't come out of this Test match thinking all's lost. The series is gone. We got blown away. I think there's certainly a number of positives there for England. The way Joe Root and Dawood Malan batted in that second innings was, magnificent. I think their bowlers actually stuck at it really well. They've got to take their chances. That's probably the big takeaway is, you can't afford to drop catches, bowling no balls, for wickets and things like this, missed run out chances. That's probably where the game was probably won or lost in the end.
Sorry, Jos. Let me just ask one more question, and then you can come in.
Carry on.
I was really interested to hear you say at the start there that Labuschagne, they were sort of doing cartwheels when they heard that England were going to be batting first. So, and I know both captains were going to bat first, apparently anyway, that Pat Cummins is going to bat first. Was it to me? It seemed like England sort of put 2 and 2 together and got 5. So why not just put them in? It was going to be difficult. I know the logic behind Root's decision, or I know there is a logic behind Root's decision. But surely the more straightforward, cricket obvious thing to have done was just put Australia into bat, because the degree of difficulty for England's batters against Australia's attack in those conditions was really high, and England have a strength, which is their seam bowling. Can you really get into the series? I know it's a bit of a risk, and captains have done it in the past, and it's all fallen apart with Brisbane 54-5 and Nasser Hussain putting them in. But if they were sort of doing cartwheels and not batting, surely then you just say, right, you're going to bat first when you win the toss.
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? And it would have been interesting to hear the conversations going on in the dressing room. I think there were certainly ghosts of the past, from the old Nasser Hussain decision, all those years ago when he bowled and Australia came out and batted so well. I was really interested to listen to Joe Root's press conference afterwards, and he was adamant that it was still the right call. And I don't necessarily disagree with him. It's just about whether you can weather that storm in that first session or first 2 sessions and get through that. Don't worry about the runs scoring so much at that stage. It's more about sort of getting through unscathed on the wicket side of things. And then things really do start to get better for batting. And it certainly wouldn't have been easy for Australia in that 4th innings, having to chase down a nasty 200. You could even see just in the short time that Australia batted in that second innings, there were still balls that were beating the bat. There was some uneven bounce. There would have been a lot of pressure. So it was just a case of, I agree with you in that the conditions, looking at them, it was just too good for bowling. And it's still a brave man to sort of, win the toss and bowl first. But I think the conditions were so good for bowling that I don't know. I would have been compelled to bowl. It was just a green pitch and sunny skies. It was really overcast conditions as well. England have got a good seam attack. The conditions were perfect for bowling first. So I don't know if Joe Root had his time again, maybe he would have bowled first, but maybe he wouldn't. He seemed pretty adamant afterwards. He said, it was more about sort of taking their chances. If they could have just got through that first sort of couple of hours, then it might have been a different game altogether. Even if they could have on that 4th morning, Joe Root and Dawood Malan, if they could have kept that partnership going for a session or a session and a half, England would have been able to build a little bit of a lead and certainly been right in that Test match. So I don't know. There's lots of ifs and buts, but yeah, I don't know. I think the conditions were pretty compelling on that first day.
Yeah.
In the end, I suppose, the Aussies they've got more match winners, and it probably wouldn't have made any difference in those conditions, because you've got tall bowlers who hit the deck hard, who make the ball zing through at 86 miles an hour. We had mainly, apart from Mark Wood, fast medium. You've got one very, very renowned opening batsman. We've got 2 quite shaky opening batsmen. You've got 2 greats in the middle order. We've got one. Stokes hadn't played for ages. it just, in those conditions, it just felt not a mismatch exactly, but just kind of, the Aussies were just a bit too good. And it's interesting actually, but we've got a member in our club called Push from India, and he's a stato. You'd like some of the stats he comes out with. And one he came out with was that Australia have won every single game that they've played as the first test of a series at the Gabba. They've won every one in the last 30 years, or it's 29 out of 30. They've never lost when it was the first match of the series for 30 years. Now, I know you lost at Brisbane against India, but that was the last match of the series, wasn't it? So there's something about going to the Gabba and slightly intimidating atmosphere. I think the pitch is probably, I don't know, you tell us, is that pitch a little bit more different apart from, say, Perth, than anywhere else in the world that you're used to?
Yeah, it's a good question, and the short answer is yes, it is. It is got a lot of pace, a lot of bounce. It can seam and swing around a bit on that first day, especially. But I think it's more the case of international teams coming to Australia, and you've got to adapt to Australian conditions as quickly as possible. Now, the preparation from both teams has been highly compromised. And Stokes is a good example there. He looked so underdone. We know he's a world-class player, but it's going to be difficult for him. And we often see it, and I think that's why Australia's got such a great record at the Gabba, being the first Test match of a series, is because most countries come to Australia. They've been used to playing on slower, lower pitches, and they come to Australia and it's fast and it's bouncy and things happen very quickly. And you're not ready for it. You're not used to it. Even if you played, 1 or 2 practice matches leading up, the Gabba is one of the fastest and bounciest pitches in the world, along with the Wacker. So it takes time to get used to Aussie conditions. It's much like when I used to come and play county cricket. For the first month of the season, I was all at sea. I would struggle on the slower pitches when it's seaming around, and and then something after about a month would just click into gear, and you'd sort of go, right, okay, now I've found my groove in these conditions. So same thing coming the other way. When you get to Australia, and it takes time to get used to the conditions, and we're used to them. We know these conditions, and the Australians, although their preparation's been highly compromised as well, at least they've played at the Gabba 100 times before, and they're experienced players. They know what to expect. And Labuschagne was a perfect example. Just the way he constructed that innings early, just allowing so many balls to pass, even if they were going over the stumps. A perfect. Yeah, a perfect contrast would have been watching Labuschagne let those balls go over the top of the stumps and seeing Dawid Malan get out in the first innings. People were critical. It wasn't a bad ball. It was a good ball. But I'm sure Labuschagne would have let that ball go. And just because Dawid Malan's used to playing in England, where the ball doesn't bounce as much, he ends up playing at that ball, nicks, and gets out. So there's a good contrast between two guys that, just not used to the conditions just yet.
Stokes probably as well in the first innings, actually, although it was from round the wicket. Again, he didn't actually have to play. And I know that when you go from round, and this is a question I'm going to put you in a minute, but when you go round the wicket, you are, as a left-hander, I suppose, more drawn into playing at it. I'll just ask you this question, which is a bit more general, but you finished your Test career, I think, in 2013, was it? Or 2014, around then? In the last, say, 7-8 years, more and more bowlers have bowled round the wicket to left-handers. And the stats say, has had quite a big impact. Do you think, in a way, do you think you were quite lucky that you didn't get that intense attack from round the wicket like all left-handers do now? Or did you actually get quite a bit of it yourself?
Yeah, you're right. I probably did get a fair bit of it, but right at the back end of my career. To be honest, I didn't mind bowlers coming round the wicket. I'd sort of shuffle my guard across, bat on off stump, and the ball was, coming from wide of the crease. And so I felt like LBW was almost out of play. So I'd bat on off stump and I'd get my pad outside the line. And the difficult bowlers to face was someone like a Warnie Morkel, who would come round the wicket, angle in, but then manage to get the ball to go away. And I think Stuart Broad's someone that's pretty good at doing that these days as well. So that's what I found difficult, because with the angle coming in, yes, you do feel like you're playing more balls because it's sort of angling in towards off stump. And I didn't mind that if it kept angling in, but it was a struggle when it was angling in and then it was sort of going away sort of off the seam or in the air. That's when the indecision was created. I wasn't sure whether to play or whether to let the ball go. And sometimes you lose, the feeling of where you're off stumped is there. So, yeah, it does seem a lot more prevalent these days with bowlers coming straight around the wicket to left-handers and trying to cut their angle off, I guess. But,
maybe the thing that England didn't do in that test was they didn't go round to Warner, except Wood.
Yeah, we were a bit surprised about that. With all the success that particularly Stuart Broad had in England in the previous series coming round the wicket, we were a bit surprised that most the seam bowlers stayed over the wicket and just tried to almost run the ball across him. He's so good with any width on offer, David Warner. And yeah, I'm sure it would have been in the back of his mind. I know conditions are completely different in England to Australia, and I know Stuart Broad wasn't playing, but it's still in the back of your mind. If you've been dismissed from a certain angle so many times, and only a couple of years ago, then it definitely is in the back of your mind. So I must admit, I was surprised, but I think maybe those bowlers just felt more comfortable over. They wanted to find their rhythm, their groove, and there's a lot of pressure on their performance as well. But I must admit, I was surprised they didn't come around the wicket to him early. Yeah.
Simon,
so what? Yeah, no. So that's sort of that's the past. What can we expect at Adelaide? I mean, how big a blow for Australia is Josh Hazelwood not being in their side? And tell us a bit about Jai Richardson. We've seen a little bit of him in England. Would you expect him just to be a bit like for like? I mean, or just explain the difference between the two.
Sure. Yeah. Well, firstly, Josh Hazelwood's a huge loss for Australia. He's just so consistent, relentless, really, with his lines and lengths that he bowls. Good pace. I think he's one of the best bowlers in the world for Test match cricket. So it's a big loss to start with. For Jai Richardson, he's a quality bowler, but he's a different type of bowler to Josh Hazelwood. He's shorter. He'd probably be just on 6 foot. I'm not exactly sure on his height, but he's more of a skiddy swinger sort of bowler, very skillful, can swing the ball both ways, decent pace as well. He'd be in the high 130s. I'm not sure what that is in your part of the world over there in England. But what's that? Probably high 80s. He'd sort of be.
Yeah.
He'd be around there. So skiddy, good pace, can swing the ball both ways. He's been in really good form. So he's someone that's actually had a very good preparation coming into the Ashes. He had an opportunity to go and play the second half of the IPL for Kings 11, chose not to go because he wanted to play start the first class season for Western Australia and put himself in the frame for the Ashes series. Performed really well for Western Australia. I think he's picked up a couple of 5-wicket hauls to start the season in the first probably 2 or 3 games. He's confident and he's a very skillful bowler. He's played a couple of Test matches already in his career. He played, I think he might have played one against Pakistan and he's also played against Sri Lanka as well. So he might have maybe 3 tests under his belt. I'm not exactly sure. And but yeah, he's a great competitor. He'll just keep running in hard all day and really good athlete. So Australia, they'll be disappointed to lose Josh Hazelwood. No question about that. But I think they'll be pretty confident with the replacement they've got in Jai Richardson.
Yeah, he's played 2 Test matches and taken 6 wickets at 20, which is not a bad little start to his Test match career. The other thing, Mike, which fascinates me about this Adelaide day-night pink ball Test match is that everyone's saying, or people are saying, and that this is England's best chance. But if you look at the stats, Australia won every single day-night Test match they played at Adelaide and at Brisbane, and England have played 3 Test matches with pink ball overseas and lost them all. So I don't quite understand the logic of that at all. I mean, it seems bizarre to me. Australia must be rubbing their hands again. We got another pink ball day-night Test match. We've won all the rest. Let's win this one as well. Go 2-0 up.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Australia really have got a good record in these pink ball Test matches. It can come down to a lot, just timing, the timing of when you bat and getting the conditions right. I think a lot of Australians remember back to the last Ashes pink ball Test when Jimmy Anderson had that spell, when he bowled with a new ball in sort of the night sort of period, and he had that ball swinging around corners. Now, England were well behind in that Test match at that stage, but it was some of the most exhilarating swing bowling that we've ever seen in this country. And I think that's what everyone remembers and is talking about and thinking, wow, if, Jimmy Anderson gets that ball and he gets it swinging around corners again, Australia's going to be in trouble. But this is what I mean. Like it's all about timing when you're sort of bowling. And this is where it makes this test match sort of quite fascinating, is that if you get the luck right, or the luck goes your way and you find yourself bowling with a brand new ball at night time, that's when you can, really do some damage. But it's about trying to contrive things to make yourself be bowling at that stage. Now, I know in Sheffield Shield games that have been day-nighters at the Adelaide Oval, teams that bat first generally bat okay, but they'll try and declare with about 10 overs to go in that nighttime session. So they have the opportunity to bowl under lights with a new ball and try and take 3 or 4 late wickets to get themselves ahead of the game. Test match cricket's a little bit tougher like that. It's a brave captain to try and declare, when there's probably plenty more runs to be had, but trying to take an advantage. So this is where the tactical side of the game will really come in, and it'll be interesting to see what both captains do, whether they do try and take advantage of the better bowling conditions. But I think for a lot of Australians, in their head, all they can remember is Jimmy Anderson bowling with that ball swinging around corners to Steve Smith and Usman Khawaja when they had no idea. And that's why I think the commentary is all about, these conditions are really going to suit England.
The other thing as well is the weather forecast for this week, which is good, and that's encouraging. We had some rain yesterday in Adelaide, but apparently at the end of the week it's going to be absolutely roasting hot. Like, talking about 35, 40. So that's Friday. That'll be the second day of the game. Does that influence team selection? I'm thinking of spinner. Often, sometimes I've seen a really cracked Adelaide pitch, 4th, 5th day, but is it going to get there because of the pink ball? I mean, there's quite a lot to weigh up for, well, specifically for Joe Root, because Australia are going to obviously play Nathan Lyon, who's a quality bowler.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think, the Adelaide pitch is actually now one of the fastest in the country as well. It used to be a magnificent batting pitch, not too quick, and then break up as the test match wore on. That they were for the day test matches. But it's a drop-in now. And the ground staff in Adelaide, they're up there with the best in the world, the way they prepare that pitch. The conditions there are magnificent, but they've got a really hard, fast, bouncy pitch now. I remember seeing some stats last year saying, it's up there with the Gabba, with its pace and bounce. So it'll be interesting to see the selections. I think it was quite telling, and a definite plan from Australia in the first test to really attack Leach. That was a clear plan. As soon as he came on, every single time, every batsman went hard at him to try and almost hit him out of the attack and make Joe Root bring back his other faster bowlers more regularly than probably what he wanted to. So I think there'll be some interesting discussions in the English camp about whether they can afford to play Jack Leach again. Do they back him in? I still think a better balanced attack does have a top quality spinner in there. I'm not sure which way England will go. I think, as you say, if there's going to be some hot weather and the pitch looks pretty good, it'll be dangerous just to go in with an all-seam attack. Plus, I guess that means that someone like Joe Root has to bowl spin, and that's okay. He's a handy spinner, but I wouldn't want to take away. I wouldn't want to have him having to bowl 15 overs and take away from his batting. His batting is going to be so important. So I'd like to stick with Leach, but it was telling that the Australians, were very, very proactive against him.
Is it slightly influenced whether you play a spinner at Adelaide because, or rather, no, I'll phrase the question a different way. Do the dimensions of the ground, where it's quite short, square of the wicket, does that affect whether you play a spinner? Because, I guess with the modern players these days, a chip for 6 over mid-wicket, especially to the left-handers, is sort of almost all in all of their repertoires. Do you think it makes a spinner's job a bit harder at Adelaide because of that?
I wouldn't not pick a spinner because the boundaries are slightly shorter on the square sides of the ground. They've actually extended the ground a little bit since they redeveloped the ground a few years ago. They have actually made the ground a little bit wider, so the boundaries aren't that short anymore. It's still very long, straight, and that works into the spinners in favour as well. Having said that, they do seem to bring the boundaries in a lot. I was looking up there at the Gabba, and the boundary rope was a good more than 10 metres in from the fence. So it's amazing how small the ground looked, in that first Test match. So, yeah, I think someone like Nathan Lyon, he enjoys bowling at Adelaide. The pitch can deteriorate, especially if there's going to be some hot weather. And he's had success bowling in Adelaide with the pink ball as well. I don't know how much success, but he certainly, I think back to a Test match against India, he might have got 7 wickets in to help Australia win the game. And that might have even been a day Test match. I can't really remember. But I know. Basically, short answer is no. I'd still pick the spinner, even though the boundary is perceived a bit short on the square side.
And one more question for me on the Ashes. What's been the reaction since you've been back home in Perth? Is it sort of, oh God, here we go again, 5-0? Or, I mean, are people kind of quite happy about that? Or do they actually want to see a contest or what? I mean, what's the general view from the Aussie side?
Oh, I definitely think everyone wants to see a great contest. You're always going to get the people out there that are going to be, 5-0, England are rubbish, blah, blah, blah. But I don't see it that way. I still think there's plenty to happen in this series. It was a fascinating first Test match. It really was. I do think the fears we had about England coming into the series sort of did hold true. The concerns over here were English top order, inexperienced top order in Australian conditions. How are they going to handle it? Now, I thought Hamid actually handled himself pretty well in the first Test. He looked good. He really sort of gutsed it out and showed he had a good temperament for Test cricket. But it did look a bit shaky up there at the top. I think Stokes being so underdone, and it's not going to be easy for him just to walk straight back into an Ashes cauldron and dominate, having so little cricket behind him. I think that, that sort of probably showed as well. It'd be interesting to see how long it took him to get up to speed as well. But the middle order still looks pretty strong. Joe Root, he batted beautifully. I think the seam attack looks pretty good. Spin is a little bit of a concern for me as well. The Aussies' tactics of really going hard at Leach sort of, he didn't really have much impact in the game at all, if any. So I think there's still concerns. You probably summed it up pretty well earlier on when you just sort of said, I look at both teams on paper and pound for pound, you sort of think, Australia do look the better team on paper. But I think generally speaking, we want to see a great contest. And I want to see Stokes at his best. I want to see Joe Root, make 100 on Australian soil and sort of, get that monkey off his back as well. I want to see, I'm disappointed Jofra Archer isn't here. I would have loved to have seen Jofra Archer against the Australian batters, to see how they sort of handle him. He's something special. So, I want to see a great contest, yeah.
Do you think Steve Smith hasn't been quite the same since that, since the Jofra Archer sort of spell at Lord's?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's something not right, but I mean, when we say there's something not right,
he's still bloody good.
We're going on Steve Smith. We're going on Steve Smith. Averaging something like 80 during that period in Test cricket. So you're not going to be able to play like that forever. But you're right. It does shake you up if you do get a really nasty blow. It does put that little seed of doubt in your mind. And we've seen teams since then really go hard with the short stuff to Steve Smith. New Zealand came to Australia and literally just bounced the living daylights out of him. And he didn't find a way to beat it. So I don't know. There's certainly something, it's not as easy for Steve Smith just to go out there and peel off those runs. Whether that actual blow has affected him, I'm not sure, because if you think I think he scored a double 100 at Old Trafford, just a couple of Test matches after that blow. So I don't know. You can argue for or against. He's probably the best one to answer, and he won't answer it truthfully until his career's over. But I do know that it does create that seed of doubt in your mind when you have had a nasty blow to your head. Yeah,
I know. I watched him carefully, and I got to know him a bit in the IPL. I was round the Rajasthan Royals team for a couple of weeks, and I don't know. I just sort of sensed that there's something almost a bit sort of skittish about his batting now. Whereas before, obviously, he's always had that sort of odd eccentricity and funny little mannerisms and routines and stuff. But I feel now they're even more exaggerated or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And it'll be interesting to ask Steve Smith probably when his career's over, because he won't answer it truthfully now.
No.
Yeah.
But
Listen,
just on that sort of, sorry, because I watched Ricky Ponting and all his career, and he was so good against the short ball, but he got hit by Kemar Roach at the Wacker.
Oh.
And I thought exactly the same thing. It was sort of at the back end of his career, and I'd never seen Ricky get hit like that before. He actually got hit on the elbow or the wrist or something, and he was never the same after that. And it was really bizarre to watch someone that I obviously admire so much and was such a great player against the short ball. But yeah, he was skittish after that. You know, it's an interesting sort of thing.
Did you ever get hit badly?
Yeah, I not badly, but I certainly got hit a few times throughout my career. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel like it affected. It just puts that little seed of doubt in your mind. You know, when you do cop a nasty one, it's like, oh, you'd feel mortal, I guess, and you think, you know, this. Yeah, it does affect you. It definitely does affect you.
Okay, I think it's time for our members' questions. If you're happy to take those, Mike. We've got Jacob lined up. I totally agree with you, by the way, as well. I thought it was a fascinating test match and so many talking points for all the sort of 3 and a bit days. Right, Jacob. Jacob, what's your question to Mike Hussey?
Thanks, Simon, and great to listen to you, Mike. Very balanced view
He's
for
the
Australia.
nicest guy in the game. Of course, he's balanced.
Very, very much so. Now, my question is more about your career, Mike. I've really followed it, and I think you started playing Test cricket at 29, and obviously you've had a great career. And I just can't help but think you could have achieved even so much more. And I just wanted to know, honestly speaking, do you have any? I know sportsmen say they don't have any regrets. But do you feel as though you could have achieved even more, in your fantastic career than you have had, and you had, if opportunities were given to you a little bit earlier? Because you're plainly good enough to play Test cricket before 29, because your first class average is phenomenal as well, isn't it? So that was my question.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. Well, I would have loved to have had an opportunity to play earlier, no question about that. But unfortunately, the Australian team at that stage was just so strong. It was just hard to get an opportunity. But I'd probably look at it 2 ways. One, I would have loved an opportunity earlier in my career. But secondly, I knew when I played, I knew I was definitely ready, and I had a great understanding of my game. So it gave me a better chance of being consistent. So the different stages I went through in my career were invaluable in helping me learn about the game and learning how I played my best cricket. So to give you an example, when I first started playing for Western Australia, my first 4 or 5 years were really good, and I scored plenty of runs, and I was knocking on the door. But as I said, the Australian team was just too strong, and no opportunities sort of presented themselves. I was an opening batsman for most of my first class career, and so I looked at the Australian team after about 4 or 5 years, and I sort of thought, okay, what are the selectors looking for here? What do I need to do to raise my game up another level? And I looked at the team. There was Matty Hayden, there was Ricky Ponting, there was Adam Gilchrist. Even someone like a Justin Langer, who he was a bit of a nicker and nudger early in his career, but then became more aggressive and looked to play more shots. And I thought, right, that's the style of player that the Australian selectors want. They want aggressive players. And my game was different. My game was based around patience, batting long periods of time, working the ball, running hard, looking to bat all day. And that's how I played my best sort of cricket. But I decided to change my game, and I tried to be more aggressive, tried to play more shots, tried to put the pressure back on the bowlers. And obviously it had a detrimental effect on my performance. And I became very inconsistent. And funny enough, not funny, I actually got dropped from the Western Australian team. And so got to the end of that season, and I remember thinking, well, your dream of playing for Australia, it's probably not going to happen. You can't get a game for Western Australia. You're not going to get picked for Australia. So I thought I actually almost parked the idea of pushing and striving and putting so much pressure on myself to try and achieve that goal. And I just thought, well, you know what? Let's not worry about that anymore. Let's just go back to playing my way. Enjoying playing for Western Australia, enjoying my teammates, take a bit of pressure off myself, and just relax. And knowing that I could still be proud of playing for Western Australia for 10 years if that's what my career was. And as soon as I took that pressure off myself and went back to playing my way and sticking to my strengths, my consistency returned almost immediately. And funny enough, that's when I got picked for Australia. But so I needed to go through those lessons, I guess, to figure out how I played my best cricket. And that sort of really helped me make the jump from first-class cricket to Test cricket, because I knew my game. And a lot of players, when they come in younger, that they're coming into Test cricket, they're still trying to figure out what their best game looks like. And that's a challenge to go on top of the extra pressure and scrutiny that comes with Test cricket, where all the commentators are analysing your technique. There's so many more external distractions. So when I got there to play it, later in life, at least I had a great understanding of my own game, and I just had to deal with the challenges of those extra external distractions, which is still tough. But I was better equipped from a playing perspective to handle the pressures of Test cricket.
Oh, brilliant
Great
answer.
question.
Thank you.
Great question. Great question, Jacob. Excellent answer too. Yeah. Paul, what's your question to Mike Hussey?
Good evening. Thank you, Simon. Good evening, Mike. Great to listen to you. Or good morning, where you are. Yeah, a couple of things. I guess actually, you and your brother David was what my question is about. And before I get into the question, I think you are probably one of the most tenuous links I have to Test cricket fame, and I think, depending on where you get your information from on the internet, that you and your brother David were born in a suburb of Perth called Morley. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my surname. So that's my tenuous link to Test cricket stardom.
So
I'll claim that now that you've officially said that. That's great. But the question was, I've got two young boys at age 12 and 9, and both love cricket and all sport. And every time they get an opportunity to face up against one another, whether that's football, playing penalties in the garden, or cricket in the nets, they just want to knock each other's block off constantly. And it was a question really about how you talked about your drive just then, I think, in Jacob's question about getting back into the Western Australian team and getting into the Australian team, and how much that sibling rivalry as you were growing up played a part in pushing you onwards and onwards to constantly better yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, good question. And looking back now, I think it was absolutely instrumental. We were Australia versus England in the backyard. Our battles were brutal. In fact, if there was a spirit of cricket back in our backyard, we would have been banned for life. There was fights, there was bribery, there was cheating, there was everything going on.
Yeah, it sounds like my house.
Yeah. But I think that's where we learn our competitive spirit. I really do. No quarter was asked or given. But Dave was pretty smart. He's 2 years younger than me, and so he would make all these rules just because I was so desperate just to get out there and play any opportunity I possibly could. So he would say, right, well, I'm batting first. I get 3 chances, and then you get him out 3 times, and it'd be my turn to bat, and then he'd walk off. And so generally our backyard games would end up with me chasing him around the house, trying to beat the living daylights out of him, and he'd generally lock himself in the car so I couldn't get at him. So a few of our Test matches were sort of cut short there, but generally speaking, they were great battles, and we sort of laugh a bit about it now because we get on well now, but we used to hate each other in the backyard, honestly, and even when we were playing competitive cricket in the same team, we'd have an argument from playing in the backyard, and I wouldn't take him to cricket, so he'd have to find his own way there, or we'd be batting together. And I'd stay at one end and he'd stay at the other end because I didn't want to talk to him in between overs and things like that. So it's pretty funny looking back. But we had the typical sort of Aussie backyard, a good sized backyard, playing down the driveway. My dad sort of would always my dad actually didn't like cricket as we were growing up. He was an athletics man. He loved he wanted us to go into little athletics and try and become an Olympian or something like that. Yeah. But Dave and I just loved cricket. We had rules. His rule was always, you've got to keep the ball on the ground. If you hit the ball over the fence, there's no 6 and out in our house. You're just out. Yeah. So that was one of our sort of main rules. I think I loved Alan Border. He was sort of my hero, and I was actually a right-handed batsman until the age of 8. But I watched AB. Funny enough, it was the Test match where against England at the MCG when him and Jeff Thompson were trying to chase down those runs, and they were getting closer and closer and closer. And I was on the edge of my seat.
3, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And England won the Test match, but that was the day that I said to my brother Dave, right, let's get out the backyard. I want to be AB. I just loved the way AB went about his cricket. He was tough, he was uncompromising, he never gave his wicket away, and I thought, wow, that's who I want to be. And so it was literally that day that England won that Test match that we went out in the backyard and played, and I started trying to bat left-handed. So yeah, that's quite interesting.
That's brilliant how you can pinpoint that one moment in your life that really inspired you to make that change. That's fascinating. It's really interesting. So yeah.
What was it, 83 then? Was it 83?
Yeah, it would have been 82, 83.
83, yes, I was 8. Yeah, I was 8 then. Yeah, so that sounds about right.
Embarrassingly, I don't know, but I might have coached you, because I played in Perth in 85, and we ran a camp run by, I think it was Nigel Felton, up north, sort of north of Scarborough. There was a big field, not sort of near Joondalup or somewhere like that, and we ran this massive coaching clinic for about hundreds of kids at Christmas, basically about 10 to 12, and I mean, every kid who could play cricket was there. It was the only camp in town, sort of thing. So
listen,
I don't know
if you
going up there, but
if you coached Mike, he would definitely remember it. I'm sure he would. It would be unforgettable. It'd certainly start half an hour late anyway.
I don't remember attending that camp, but I tell you what, I do remember being coached by Tony Locke. He came down I was a leg spinner when I was growing up, and he sort of came down to my club side, and he used to take these spin camps, and I used to love learning to bowl leg spin from Tony Locke. It was good fun.
Brilliant. Great question, Paul. Let's move on to Keith, who's actually in the US. I can't even begin to think what time it is with you, Keith. Anyway, let's what's your question to Mike Hussey?
Hey, thanks, Simon. Hey, Huss, how you doing? So out here, we get your feeds from the Australia matches that you commentate on. So I really enjoy that. I'm good. Normally they get on my case here for asking more than one question, and I just want to let the Simons know I had one question, but I just first want to say, is it absolutely 100% that it's going to be Jai? I mean, is Nestler going to shout in at all? And if it is Jai, because I think they're going to keep him on short amounts of overs at one time, is this going to grow the role that Cameron Green is going to have, the number of overs, especially given the performance he had in the first test? So that's the question I wasn't going to ask, but the one I really wanted to ask was, with the fifth test being moved over to Hobart now, what kind of advantages, if there are any, for England in that fifth test not being in Perth this year?
Yeah, thanks, Keith. It's a good question. I haven't thought too much about it. Hobart traditionally is generally a very, very good batting pitch, and the pitch doesn't break up much. You normally see lots and lots of runs down there. But there's a spanner in the works in this one, is it's going to be a day-nighter. And we've not had a day-night test match down in Hobart before. So we're not exactly sure what that's going to throw up. Again, all the talk sort of on the side is that, the pink ball tests are going to, suit England, their seam bowlers and things like that. Now, I'm going to reserve my judgment on that until we sort of see it play out. But I don't know. All I know about Hobart is it's a beautiful place. It's a magnificent place to play. It's a very quiet sort of sleepy town. It kind of reminds me a little bit of an old English county, really. The weather can get a bit cooler down there, but generally speaking, the conditions are pretty good for batting. So I don't know. Let's sort of see how it sort of all plays out. But I'd still expect to see plenty of runs down there.
Great. We've got two more questions, and then we're going to move on to the quiz. Will, you're our penultimate question this morning.
Simon, hello. Huss, how are you?
Good, thanks, Will.
Good. I just two kind of quick ones. My first one is I'm currently going through my my coaching badges at the minute, and I was just wondering, surely you obviously coach younger kids, and I was wondering what the best piece of advice of coaching you would give to kind of young kids, kind of like 11, kind of 12, 13. And my second one is I put this message up on the chat box earlier on. Obviously, England struggled obviously in that first test. I was just wondering, if you were batting at the Gabba, how would you have dealt batting against Stark, Hazelwood and Cummings?
I'll try and answer the second one first. As I said earlier, I thought Labuschagne's blueprint for his innings was absolutely superb. That's how you have success at the Gabba. Now he's a Queenslander, local Queensland player, so he knows those conditions so well. He's played at the Gabba so many times, but it's very much a new ball pitch, and it can do a lot with the new ball. So you've got to find a way to get through that first sort of 20 overs, maybe 25 overs, and then it becomes one of the best places to bat in the world, because it's got that pace and bounce and carry, comes onto the bat nicely. So you can play shots all around the ground, but the difficult bit that you've got to negotiate is that first sort of hour and a half of your innings. And the way Labuschagne did it was just first class. Just you've got to let a lot of balls go, and you can let a lot of balls go that bounce over the stumps. Generally, the Aussie bowlers, their natural lengths, Cummins and Hazelwood in particular, is just a little bit shorter. So you can, trust the bounce and let it go over the stumps. They made the adjustment of bowling slightly fuller, and so that's kudos to the Australian fast bowlers on that occasion. But I would have been looking to play really straight, defend a lot, look to rotate. I thought the way Ollie Pope came out was really good. Just tried to drop and run, rotate the strike, get down the other end. And
also Pope as well, when they came in as well, when they had that exact kind of same partnership, them and Pope, they were rotating, weren't they?
Yeah, they rotated the strike. Well, so you don't want to just get stuck at one end where they can just bowl ball after ball after ball to you. So it's still got to remain positive, try and get off strike, let a lot of balls go, and just get through that initial period. And then honestly, it becomes one of the best places to bat in the world. As far as coaching kids, I think if you're talking about 11 and 12-year-olds, it's got to all be about fun. Just let them get out there and enjoy it. Like I've got a 9-year-old. He plays in the under 10s, and these kids just absolutely love it. They want to be Steve Smith and Labuschagne, and they want to try all the shots. And I would just encourage that, just to have fun. I really get annoyed when parents get involved too much and they're trying to live their career through their kids, and they're getting too technical, and they're putting so much pressure on them and counting every one of their runs. And I just don't think it should be like that at all. I think it should just be get out there, enjoy yourself, have a crack at everything, bowl, bat, wicket keep, just really enjoy the game, and just don't put too much pressure on them, because you'll end up driving them away from the game. Yes, you want them to have success and that, but that'll come in time. Just let them have fun.
Will do. Great.
Brilliant. Yeah. Really good question. Well, and brilliant answer as well. Yeah. Just let them have fun. I see so many parents when they're out running or whatever, just shouting at their kids while they're playing football or whatever. Just like, oh my God.
Have fun. What are you doing?
Unbelievable. All right. Okay. Last question tonight from stroke this morning from Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hi guys, all right. Thanks very much for doing this, Mike. Great name as well. I'll start with that. Just a quick one, really. Back to that oval test in 2009. That was like, I think, a massive innings for you. I mean, I know there was a little bit of chat at the time, sort of, about you and your place in the team. I just want a bit of an insight into your mentality that day, going out, record chase, to try and win the Ashes. I mean, I remember being hungover, watching it on the telly, thinking, I just want this bloke to get out. But actually, I'm thinking it's actually an amazing knock. So can you just tell us a little bit about your mindset that Sunday?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mike. Well, that was probably one of the most pivotal innings in my whole career, really. And the reason why I say that is I'll take you back to, as I said earlier, when I was playing for Western Australia and I was putting too much pressure on myself and trying so hard and wanted it so bad, and having that sort of where I got dropped from the WA team. I was actually going through a very similar stage for when I was playing for Australia. So I'd been battling for a while, in the Australian team. I'd say nearly 18 months. I was sort of hanging in there, and really battling, and it just sort of. I was inadvertently just putting more pressure on myself. So we had the likes of, Hayden and Gilchrist and, all these guys were sort of retiring. And so I was sort of thinking, okay, well, now I'm becoming a more senior player. I've got to take more responsibility. I've got to, be one of the best performed players, and automatically just slowly just putting more pressure on myself. I didn't need to do that in hindsight. I just needed to keep being me, keep playing my way, and, just playing my role in the team. But inadvertently, I kept putting more and more pressure on myself. it gets to a stage where things are just going to implode. And I got a duck in the first innings in that Test match, and it was really strange. It was a strange sort of feeling in the dressing room coming into that second innings. We had this huge run chase. For some reason, which we hardly ever did, we had the commentary on in the dressing room. We could hear what the commentators were saying. And I remember listening to Ian Chappell, who must have been covering the series. And he was saying, well, this is Mike Hussey's last innings for Australia. You know, he will be dropped after this because, you know, we've got to get some new blood in there. You know, the Ashes are gone, blah, 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 blah. And he was going on. And I remember listening to it and just thinking, oh, well, if this is going to be my last innings for Australia, I want my last memory of just to be one of like, I want to enjoy it. I just want to just go out there, relax, and just play. It's an unlikely run chase anyway. I don't want my last memory of playing for Australia being one of stress, pressure, tense, anxiety. I don't want that. I want my last innings to be one of joy and happiness and just fun and relaxed. So I honestly went out there and I just thought, well, let's just go out there and just play and just enjoy it. And again, I wish I learned from my previous mistake. As soon as I took that pressure off myself, as soon as I relaxed and just went out there and just played and enjoyed playing the game, funny enough, that's when the luck goes your way. I got dropped, I think, at first slip by Paul Collingwood, who I don't think ever drops catches. So a little bit of luck went my way, and then obviously was able to score 100. And yeah, what wasn't good enough to get us there to win the Test match, but it was good enough to sort of save my career for a couple of years. But I can honestly say that being the last man out in that sort of Test match and in the series was arguably probably the worst feeling you can have on a cricket field. My best feeling I've ever had was amazing Adelaide in 2006-07 series, but the worst feeling I've ever had was getting out caught in close off Graham Swan to cost us the Ashes and lose us that sort of series. But yeah, it was interesting that you picked up on that particular innings because in the context of my whole career, it was pretty pivotal.
Yeah, it was brilliant innings. And I'm sorry that I brought it up so early in your day. So don't think about it now for the rest of that. I'm sorry about that.
That's all good, Mike. No worries.
Brilliant. Great. Well done, Mike.
I'll just pick up on one thing there. You mentioned Huss there, 2006-07 Adelaide experience. I just remember that Test match so clearly that, just to recap, England got 550 and declared. Australia all out of 513. I think you got about 90. And then in that third innings, England was coasting along at sort of 60 for none, lead of 100, 60 for one, lead of 100 overnight. And I remember talking to Shane Warne a few years later, and he said that everyone expected it to be a draw on the fifth day, except him.
Yeah.
What's your memory of, just to sort of, set the scene, fifth day, you'd already won the first Test. Second Test was heading for a draw, England 100 overnight for one down, and everyone thought it was going to be a draw, and of course you went on to win. What was the can you recall the mood in the dressing room that morning, and was Warne that influential?
Yeah, I remember it well, and it's 100% true. What you say about Warnie, I thought it was going to be a draw. I was relaxed, came to the ground, we'll just play the last day out. It'll be a draw, and we can move on to Perth. But as soon as we got in the dressing room, it was Shane Warne, John Buchanan, and Ricky Ponting. They basically called a team meeting, which was very unusual during a Test match to call a team meeting. So we're all sitting there, and Ricky and Warnie pretty much ran the show. And they basically sat us down and said, we can bloody well win this Test match, but we've got to believe we can win this Test match. And I was at the back of the room thinking, what? How on earth are we going to win this Test match? We've got to take 9 English wickets. We're already behind, on the first innings. We've got one day, Anyway, Ricky then sort of said, okay, we've just got to figure out how we want to go about it. We can go all out attack, set attacking fields, bowlers just go for wickets every single ball, and we might leak a few extra runs, but we've got to get these last 9 wickets. Or we can go the other way, and we'll just maybe not attack in the field so much, just build up the pressure, just, we might get a bit of luck, just squeeze them, not give them a single run. And, we might get a bit of luck, the pressure might build up on England. And as a team, that's the way we decided to go. we just sort of, and we were fortunate. We had the great Shane Warne bowling. He bowled non-stop for 2 sessions from one end. And I think I remember him bowling one bad ball in that whole 2 sessions of play. We did get lucky. I think the wicket of Andrew Strauss was a shocking decision. I caught it in close, and I think he missed it by 6 inches at least. We did get a run out, and so everything that Ricky and Warnie were talking about in the before the game, before that day's play, was actually starting to play out. England had the mentality of they were just going to play out the day for a draw. They weren't even thinking about scoring any runs, and that sort of worked in our favour as well. So we get a couple of wickets, we get a bit of momentum and a bit of a flow on, and England, then you could just feel the tension sort of build in them. And it was just one of the most fascinating days of Test cricket. But it did come down to Warnie and Ricky Ponting at the start of the day, setting like a little bit of a plan and making us believe that we could sort of win that test. So Warnie was awesome from one end. That enabled Ricky to rotate the fast bowlers from the other end. And yeah, just things, the stars aligned and things just sort of worked in our favour. Well, worked in our favour that day. And yeah, as I said, to be out there to hit the winning runs at the end of that test match is still to this day the best feeling I've ever had on a cricket field.
You were 60 not out at the end. And
can I just step in there with a little addendum to that story?
Yeah, go on.
Because I remember that day very well. Because I lived in Queensland at the time, Mike Hussey, and I had a friend who came over with the Barmy Army, and every day we went up to the Brisbane Test from the Gold Coast and watched us get slaughtered. And then he went off to Adelaide, and that was that, and he was away. And obviously, the first few days, he kept ringing me up every day with a report in it and how joyous he was, and it was all turning around. On that last afternoon, after it was over, he rang me up in tears, saying it was the saddest day of his life. And he's never really got over it.
I'm sorry.
That's what cricket can do.
I'm glad you came in there, Norts, because you're the man for this little slot for 1 minute. As a result of your endless success and occasional failure, but mainly success in the Ashes, we've named you in the list of the top 100 Ashes heroes of all time. Heroes from all the years back since 1882, and we've made a series of 100 NFTs. Do you know what an NFT is?
NFT? No, I can't say I do.
You need
not to be confused with an LFT in the UK, isn't it?
LFT. Yeah, definitely not to be confused with an LFT. It's nothing to do with COVID. Well, you need to tell your commentary colleagues about it because it's the new thing. It's called a non-fungible token.
Oh, I do know about this. Adam Gilchrist was telling me about this, where you can buy a moment or something like that. It's all digital, online, connected to Bitcoin, isn't it?
This is yours. This is the one we've made for you. It's a 3D digital.
It most definitely is not connected with Bitcoin. I always like to make that clear. But,
is it? Okay, right.
No, anyway, there it is.
Okay, so can you explain to me how this all works?
So essentially, that's a piece of 3D digital art that exists on on a particular blockchain. You have been ranked by Simon and Jeffrey Boycott and Gideon Hay as number 75 in the 100 greatest Ashes heroes. There's your badge number on there. Over here, if you can see the screen, there's a little bio all about you. It's that, and basically later on this week we're going to release them, probably the full set, and hopefully, some have actually already been sold to various buyers, but hopefully we'll sell them and we'll raise a bit more money for the Professional Cricketers Trust. So that's kind of what it's about. And obviously within it, there also comes little treats, like for example, Monty Panesars, you get to do a Zoom with him and all sorts of things. But we thought we'd give you the honour as an Ashes hero to sit in the collection. So there you go. I'm going to stop sharing now.
And what do you think of the, go back to it a minute. What do you think of the latest Huss?
Yeah, it looks good. Was that, I couldn't quite see. Was it playing a pull shot, was it? Is that a pull shot there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. It'll probably make you about 30p, I reckon. That's probably all it's worth.
Whee, there we go. Right, I'll stop that. It's quiz time.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
Fantastic.
Gilly's in there, of course, as well. We were debating who was number one, but I'm not going to reveal who it is. It's not Don Bradman, actually. And there's a reason for that, but we'll come to that at some point in the next few weeks. Okay, so this quiz, Huss, is one we've done with everybody. It's called How Well Do You Know Yourself? And normally, if I've got all my equipment working, my sound deck here, and my laptop or anything. I'm normally playing sound effects and all sorts, but I can't get it to work. My Wi-Fi's shit, so I can't get it to work. So I'm going to show you the leaderboard like this instead. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see? Can you read the names on there? So this is our sort of about 5th edition of our quiz. Liam Livingston is top at the moment with 9. Ather's 8. Gat was 8. NASA, fairly miserable failure with 6. We've had a lot of
So he didn't know himself very well at all then?
No,
is that what you're saying?
Correct. What we've noticed is sometimes when the people are asked these questions, they're either falsely or exaggeratedly modest and get the answer wrong. So just that's a little bit of help for you to see, if that helps you when you answer these questions. I'm sorry I haven't got any of the kind of normal sound effects for when you get it right or wrong, but I'll just make them up.
We'll dub it on in post, right? We'll put it on.
We'll put it on in post. So this is the quiz. How well do you know yourself? Imagine a little bit of quiz music coming up, and it's 10 questions. We'll try and be as fair as we can because you're such a nice guy. And see how you go. No conferring, no asking a friend. Well, everyone that you know is asleep anyway.
Yeah.
So, Simon,
No worries.
question 1.
Okay, the first question, and just something to say, Hussey, is that the lowest score was Alistair Cook with 4. So in that sense, if you want to avoid ignominy, you just have to get 4 or more.
Okay.
So you're not our lowest score, but only one person has got 10 out of 10, and that was someone you've mentioned already, Paul Collingwood. He managed to fluke 10 out of 10, but we're reasonably.
Look up one answer on his bedroom wall upstairs.
That's right, he did. Yeah, he took the phone up to his bedroom wall.
I'm starting to feel that stress and anxiety before going out to bat in a test match. So it's all returning. So let's see how we go.
Okay, well, just relax like you did at the Oval in 2009. Okay, question number 1 is, I'm not sure how difficult or easy this question is, but how many did you score on your first class debut for Western Australia against Tasmania? And we normally have a bit of latitude here, so we might say go 5 either side.
No, I'm pretty sure it was 16.
Is the correct answer 1 out of 1?
He's got it
on the board.
Got it.
I'm off the mark. That's good.
Yes.
It's always nice to get off the mark.
Okay, well, you'll probably get this one then. Question 2, how many did you make on your test debut?
I scored only 1 in my first innings. Second innings, I think it was 28, maybe, something around there.
We'll give you the 1. It was just the 1 we wanted. So congratulations.
Yeah, didn't last long.
Question 2, also correct. So 2 out of 2.
Okay. Question 3. Just remember what Yoz said at the start. If you combined your test and one-day international averages, and you combined Ricky Ponting's test and one-day international averages, who would have the higher total?
Oh gosh. Well, Ricky definitely had a better test average. I had more not outs in one-day cricket, so maybe I've got him covered in the one day. What would Ricky have averaged? 41. I'm going to say me.
Is the right answer. You had a combined average of 99 and Ricky had a combined average of 93. Both of you averaged actually 51 in test cricket. His was slightly higher, but you had 48 in one-day cricket and he had 42. 3 out of 3 going well.
You can see why this man is in the lab, can't you? 3 out of 3. Good knowledge. You'll have to tell us a little bit about the lab in a minute, but we'll finish this first. So question 4, for which team did you have your best first class record of all the first class teams that you played for? Which one did you average the best for?
Well, I wish the question was who I averaged the worst against, because that would have been an easy one to answer. Queensland, I always struggled with them. That they were tough. Best.
So your best average team of all your domestic teams that you played for, first class, who do you think you averaged?
All the teams?
Yeah. So England teams and obviously Australia.
Okay, right. So the things that were going through my mind was Adelaide and Hobart were always the best 2 places to bat. So I was going to say maybe South Australia or Tasmania. But then if you're throwing county cricket in there as well,
I'm But before you answer, it's which team did you have the best average for? You represented.
For.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you meant against, which I thought was going to be a very tough question. Well, I'll probably have to say Northants, courtesy of some magnificent batting pitches at Wantage Road.
And you sure about that?
No, I'm not sure at all.
Well, you're right. Anyway, correct.
Really?
4 out of 4. Okay.
Well, you averaged 78 at Wantage Road. Very impressive.
Right.
Here's question number 5. Sorry, Mike. Question number 5. Taranga Paranavitana, Kumar Sangakkara, Darren Bravo, Dwayne Bravo, Jesse Ryder, Paul Harris, and who completes the list?
Sorry, can you say those guys again? So we've got Paravatana, we've got Kumar Sangakkara,
Darren Bravo,
two Bravos.
Darren Bravo, Dwayne Bravo, Jesse Ryder, Paul Harris, and who completes the list? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know you're talking test wickets now. I remember those. I should remember those more than runs.
So those were you had 7 test wickets. I've given you 6 names. Who was the 7th?
I can't remember. I'm going to have to pass. I don't know.
So Ryder, can I just say there's a clue in the chat from Richard Shelley, because he says it's your first test wicket is the person.
My first test wicket I thought was Paul Harris.
Well, I'm only reading what's in the chat.
Right. Where's the chat? How do I get into the chat?
Well, it sounds as though it's erroneous, but
the chat is crap because he's now corrected themselves.
Right. The two Bravos, yes. Jesse Ryder, Paul Harris, Sangakkara, and Paranavitana. And who was the 7th?
I'm trying to think. No, I can't think. Can you give me a hint and tell me which country it's from? Or is that going a bit too far?
Okay, we can give you one clue. Australasian.
Can't be Australia.
We had Daniel Vittori. You had Daniel Vittori on that list, didn't you?
No, we didn't.
Oh, you haven't had him?
No.
Oh, well, it's definitely Daniel Vittori.
It's the right answer. We got there in the end. 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5.
I told you we were generous.
Very generous. Thank you.
Right. Question 6. My computer's just died. Right. Question 6. On which Australian ground did you have your highest test average?
Highest test average, which Australian ground? I'm going to say the SCG. I was tossing up between the SCG and the Gabba, but I'll guess and say Sydney Cricket Ground, courtesy of a couple of not outs.
Incorrect.
Oh, well, there we go.
Bellarive Oval.
Bellarive. Okay. Yeah, very good batting pitch down there. I didn't play many tests down there.
101 you average there. Sydney 94.
Right. Okay, there you go. I got my last innings there was a first ball duck, so that probably put me off the scent there.
Okay. Well, sorry, I'm afraid you got that one wrong. 5 out of 6.
That's okay.
Okay, right. Question number 7. How many first class hundreds did you make?
Give or take.
We'll give or take 3 either side on this, I think.
Okay. I'm guessing. I'm going to say 61.
It's bang on. 61.
No way. It is not.
Correct.
Is it really?
Is the correct answer? Yeah.
No way. That's unbelievable. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that surprises me.
There we go. 6 out of 7. Going well.
You thought?
Sorry?
You say it surprised you.
Well, it surprised me that I guessed it right. I didn't really have a clue. I'm not a big stats man at all. You know, I don't follow the stats. So yeah, it does surprise me.
Okay, 7 out of 8 anyway. 6 out of 7. Question 8. How many domestic teams have you played for? So that's sort of large.
Does that include T20?
T20, really, yeah. How many teams have you played for?
Okay. Well, 3 counties, 1 Australian team, Australia 5. How many T20 teams? 3, 4. I'm going to say, again, I'm guessing 9.
Have one more guess. Close.
Have another guess.
It's very
Is that what you're
close.
saying? Very close. Well, 10.
10 is the correct answer.
Ah, very good. Very good.
You may have forgotten St. Lucia Zooks.
Oh, no, I can't forget the St. Lucian Zooks. The CPL, well, it's all a bit blurry because
Canterbury,
Canterbury Kings, I played 1 game for them as well. Yeah, that's a good one. But no, the CPL was, I'm not sure cricket was the focus there. It was more about the off-field festivities at the CPL. that seemed to take more importance with the St. Lucia Zooks than what was going on the field. So it's hard to forget that one.
Okay, well, anyway, we'll give you that. 7 out of 8. Very good.
Okay, question number 9. You made 19 test centuries, 5 overseas. Where did you make your last overseas test century? On what ground?
Oh,
or in which city? Your last overseas test century.
Oh gosh, okay. Yeah, see, this is what I struggle with is the years. They all sort of blur into one. So can't even remember going on any tours after 2009. Where did I go after that? 2010, South Africa, I wouldn't have got any. No, okay, I'm going to go Sri Lanka and I'm going to go Colombo.
Is the right answer. Yeah.
Ooh.
The SSC in Colombo. 8 out of 9.
Very good. Right. Okay, last question. Question 10. Who has the highest T20 international strike rate? Mitchell Marsh, David Hussey, or you?
Oh, it definitely won't be me. I can discount myself from that.
The highest T20 international strike rate. Mitch Marsh or your brother?
Yeah, I'll keep it in the family. I'll go my brother, but it's probably Mitch Marsh. But I'll go Dave.
David Hussey, Mitchell Marsh, 125. Michael Hussey, 136.
No way. I wouldn't have guessed that in a million years. Well, I would have guessed it in 3 guesses, but not the...
You actually...
Yeah, wow.
You've got one of the highest. I think you're in the top 8 international T20 strike rates.
Right. Wow. That surprises me, I must admit. Yeah. Dave and Mitch Marsh are much more aggressive players than what I ever was. But yeah, that's surprising.
Well,
but 8 out of 10 is not bad.
Just shows that the classic style can be adapted very effectively.
Oh, without doubt. Yeah, most definitely.
Well, congratulations. You got 8 out of 10. I mean, it's a shame you got that one wrong. Modesty overtook you in the end. But 8 out of 10 is still a very good score. So congratulations.
I'm just, it's the first time I think I've ever beaten Alistair Cook in anything. So I'm actually pretty happy about that.
You smashed it, Mike.
Excellent. Simon, have you got any final questions? We have to ask everyone a prediction, I suppose. I bet you hate predictions. Actually, before we do, just tell us one little thing. We won't keep you too much longer because you probably want to go back to bed. But the lab, tell us about the lab on Fox. What is it? Because we don't get it here.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So it's basically just a little studio off to the side, and Fox have an amazing amount of technology that they use for the coverage, and so I'm the fortunate one to be able to go in and that we might just pick something up that's happening on the field that we can sort of dive in a little bit deeper. and analyse a little bit closer. It might be a technique, it might be a field position, it might be something that's happened on the ground that we can just put some technology around it. We can they've got different camera angles, and you can. I've had balls sort of flying at me, and how you sort of play a certain short ball. So for example, we might look at Labuschagne's innings. I know I've spoken a lot about that in today, but about him letting a lot of balls go, and so we can sort of highlight where the balls are pitching on a sort of 3D pitch. You can sort of see this is the length that England are bowling. It's a little bit too short, so this is allowing Labuschagne to let the balls go over the top of the stumps. As soon as they got a bit fuller, that's when he nicked a ball that landed just short of Joe Root at first slip. That's the length that England need to be bowling. And we can sort of show, from 3D sort of views, where the balls are pitching, so that sort of gives you a bit of an idea about how we can sort of take the viewer out into the middle, and as if they were batting in Labuschagne's shoes, and see these balls coming at them, see the length they're bowling, and sort of see what's sort of happening out there. So it's just basically trying to analyse things and give it a bit more depth, and trying to take the viewer out into the middle, really.
Sounds brilliant. Sounds very good. And it's a shame we don't get it, actually, because I think people would like it. But anyway, they don't have that. So it's exclusive to Fox. Anyway, very good. So that's great. Listen, we're very envious because we can see a beautiful day outside.
The sun's up.
Cold, dark and shit here. So enjoy. And when are you heading to Adelaide? Are you going today then, presumably, are you?
No, I'll head over tomorrow. First thing tomorrow. So yeah, looking forward to getting over there. It's always a great test match. The Adelaide Test is a great spectacle. I'm sure England will bounce back. I do believe that. I think it'll be a good contest again. Got to get a couple of good bowlers in there, in Anderson and Broad. I'm sure both. Hopefully both will sort of get out there and play. And Australia lose Hazelwood, so I think it'll be a fascinating test. I really do, and I'm expecting England to bounce.
That's brilliant guest, fantastic, Mike, for joining. Just one very quick thing: the rumour I'm hearing from the England camp, and it is only a rumour, is that Broad might not play in Adelaide, and Anderson's going to play, but Broad, just a bit of a question mark over whether he's going to play, which does seem. It's an interesting whisper anyway, but it's not been confirmed. But we'll wait and see what happens on that one. So there we go.
Maybe it's his memories of Adelaide. Do you remember that brilliant spell Johnson bowled in 2013? I think Broad went in on a hat trick, and he got the sight screen moved or something, and then got bowled behind him. It was a bizarre kind of incident. You remember that? Maybe you don't.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we need to let Mike go. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's been brilliant to have you with us. Fantastic hour or so, and well done on the quiz. I think lots of appreciative messages from our members as well in the chat box. I can see best guest in 14 months, says Robin. We've had some great people on, so really great, and really appreciative of you joining us, Mike.
No, thanks very much for having me. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, let's hope the next test is a beauty as well. But yeah, thanks very much. Hope everyone has a great day or great night where you guys are.
Thanks for getting up so early, Mike. And and all the best. Cheers.
No worries. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye.